I got a couple things that I want to talk about. It's related to focusing. I think we really struggle in this day and age on focusing on one thing. Before I talk about that, I want to talk about my grandpa. He was an old farmer up from northern Wisconsin, and this dude was tough as nails. I mean, he was a beast. He went out to another farm, and their jack broke. They got a flat tire in a car, and so their jack broke, and he's like, well, I'll just lift up the car. So he just lifts it up, picks up the whole car, they put a block under it, and sets it down. I mean, this dude was a monster. Okay, I go up north, and people still tell me stories about how strong my grandpa was. And with that strength came a lot of confidence. And he was driving one day. Now, when I knew my grandpa, he had 2 canes. He had 2 hip surgeries because he was a trucker all day, so he's bouncing down the roads, and his hips go bad. So he gets 2 hips replaced, and he's in these 2, what do you call them, canes. So he always has to walk with these canes. Man, he was still confident when he was 70 years old. He's driving down the road on Sunday, right? A cop pulls him over. And the one thing that ticks my grandpa off more than anybody else was people that he called cocky. He hated that. And he always called people counterfeit. If you're counterfeit, it means you're not the real deal. You're fake. And he hated that. So he gets pulled over. He speeds. He's a trucker. That's what they do. He's speeding a little bit. He's probably going 60 and a 50, and a cop pulls him over. Please don't do this. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. Don't do this. Cop comes over and says, hey, you could just tell, just the way the cop was walking up to him, that this is one cocky cop. And he's just going to be, look, I got a badge on me. I'm awesome. And he goes, you were going 60 and a 55. And my grandpa he was done. His name was Arvid. He's like, this guy, yeah, you're right. I was speeding, but this guy doesn't need to be a jerk about it. You know how fast you were going? He's just being a total jerk. My grandpa, right off the bat, called him on it. He said, you know what? You ever gone 56 and a 55 mile an hour speed? The cop goes, no. You've never gone 36 and a 35? Cop says, I never have. Now, my grandma's sitting next to him, right? Edna. She's pinching him in the leg going, you don't do this to a cop. Stop right now. He's got, he had bruises. He showed me the bruises. Yeah, grandma's pinching me. He grabs the Bible, because it was a Sunday, right next to him. Holds the Bible up to the cop and says, you swear on this Bible you've never sped before? The cop walks away from the car, goes back into his squad car, and drives away, doesn't give him the ticket. Now, where does that confidence come from? Well, this guy has worked his butt off his entire life. I mean, I tell you, I still hear stories about the stuff that he did growing up. And he could have played any level of football that he wanted to. But what did he want? He wanted to drive a tractor, work the farm, and be a trucker. I mean, this guy was tough as nails. And I had the fortunate opportunity to work with the guy before he died back in, it would have been 96. I worked with him in the summers before football, and it was awesome. He taught me a lot of hard work, a lot of ethics stuff. Don't be a counterfeit person. Be the real deal. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And I think I really benefited from that. Now, this confidence that my grandpa had came from a couple things. And I'm going to tell you 3 things, 3 steps to building this confidence. Number 1, choosing your fuel. How many of you guys seen The Water Boy? What finally connects with the water boy? Okay, what's your tackling, right? To my tackling fuel, right? What's your fuel? Why are you here right now? A lot of you guys are here because you like football. You got a lot of friends here. You like running around, you like the clothes. How many of you guys like the clothes? Okay, don't raise your hand. It's fun, right? But why are you here? What is your fuel? What makes you every day get up and get your head smashed and just get bumps and bruises and go, I'm going to do this again tomorrow? You got to have a fuel. In life, think about it. If you're going into a job, you got to have a reason for doing it. If I'm an employer, I don't want to hire a guy who's just going to sit there and be like, my goal is I want to make money. That's all I want to do. You got to have kind of a passion, right? How many of you guys heard the name Jaromir Jagr? Well, who was he? Hockey player, right? Pretty darn good. He was playing in the 1992 Olympics. Okay? And the United States was supposed to win the gold medal in that Olympics. They were slotted to win it. They were supposed to be that good. I think it was 92, a couple years back. Okay? Who ended up winning the gold medal? Canada. It wasn't Canada, back in 92. Czech Republic. Okay? Who were they playing for the gold medal game? Russia. Now, Jaromir Jagr was wearing number 68. Does anybody know why he was wearing number 68? In 1968, Russia invaded his country and killed thousands of Czechs and his grandpa. He said, you know what? I'm ready for this game. Because those Russians, not the hockey players obviously, those Russians in 1968, the number I'm wearing right now, invaded my country and killed my grandfather. That was his fuel. So the coach, before the gold medal game, comes up and says, are you ready to play? He says, Coach, I've been ready my entire life. This 68 is what makes me ready. What's your 68? Why are you playing this game? What's your fuel? Think about that. I'm going to give you a minute. What is your fuel? Is it popularity? I don't think that's a very good fuel. Is it, I don't know. You got to have something a little bigger. What is your fuel for playing this game? I'm going to give you just 30 seconds. Think about that. Now, if you can think of a fuel, now you can use that to focus. That's the second step. Step one is what's your fuel? Step two, use that fuel to help you focus. What do I mean by focus? There's a coach in the 1970s. His name is Duffy. Okay, he's head coach of Michigan State. Who's Michigan State's number one rival? Michigan, right? You beat Michigan, you own the whole state of Michigan. Right? Michigan and Michigan State. That game is one that I always want to watch. Okay, because that's a big rivalry. So he's in the coach in the 70s, right? And he sees he's playing Michigan on that Saturday, right? And his players, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're flat. They're not motivated. They're slow. They're just going through the motions in practice. And he says, you know what? I got to get these guys some focus. Now, they had a football player on their team. One heck of a good football player, I guess. He didn't mention his name in the story I was reading. But this guy had a couple kids that he had to take care of while he was in college. So what does he do? He's got to take care of his kids. He goes and steals some cereal. Okay, we're not talking like a box of cereal, like the kind you load in the back of your truck. Right? So he kind of gets in trouble here. But the coach kind of helps him out and says, you know what, he's got a family and stuff. We'll make sure that he pays for whatever, and we'll try to make sure that he gets to play football still. But what he did is wrong. That's bad. He shouldn't be stealing stuff. But whatever. Okay. Now the week of this game, the Michigan game, Thursday, they have team practice. Right? They're doing team stuff. Right? The whole team's together. And this head coach Duffy, he calls up and he calls the sheriff of the county that they're in. And he says, hey, I need a favor. And this sheriff is 6'4", 270 pounds. He carries a Colt .45 revolver on his arm, right, on his side. And he goes, Sheriff, I need your help. We need to motivate our players. So he comes up with this deal. Middle of practice, team's going on. And here comes the sheriff in his car, his squad car, rolls right onto the practice field. Lights are blaring, sirens going, the whole team's going. There's a sheriff coming on our field. Sheriff gets out of the car. And he goes, Coach, do you have let's make it John Doe. Do you have a John Doe on your team? And coach says, yeah, I do. He says, I need to place him under arrest. Now, nobody on the team knows that he set this up with the sheriff, right? Nobody knows. No coaches even know. So he places the cuffs on this really good football player that they need to beat Michigan that Saturday. Now, one of the assistant coaches starts flipping out. You can't take him. He's our guy. Give us a chance. Starts pushing the sheriff. What does the sheriff do? Slaps him in cuffs too. Starts bringing him, ready to load him into the squad car, right? And the whole team is about ready to rip this squad car apart. I mean, they're like, you don't do this to our team. Coach Duffy, knowing this is all kind of a plan, he goes, Sheriff, let me work something out here. Can we work something out? And the sheriff says, okay, I'll make a deal with you. You beat Michigan, I'll let him go. You lose to Michigan, they're both going to jail. What do you think about that? And the whole team goes, you got it, Sheriff. They beat Michigan 28-0. 28-0. Okay? Do you think their focus was there? Yeah. No, he didn't tell them until after the game that it was all a plan, right? You don't tell them before, hey, by the way, that was a joke. You know? He didn't do that. They beat them 28-0. Their focus was there, their fuel was there, and they made something happen. Okay? Now, I heard, does anybody know anything about boxing? A little bit? Okay, I heard an interesting quote. This pilot out of France, he's a pilot and a writer. He said this is one of his quotes. Your brain accepts only one problem at a time. If you get into a fist fight, which please don't do, but if you get into a fist fight, put your mind on the strategy of the fight, and you will not feel the other fellow's punches. You can only focus on one problem at a time. So when you come out to the practice field, and you're going, oh man, oh my girlfriend is just stupid. Okay, 27 veer. You're not focusing. You've got one thing you can focus on. Your brain is very small in that fashion. So focus is really important. All I have to do is run a 27, a 7-hole right there. If that's your only focus, focus on that. You'll be amazing. Amazing things will happen. Another coach said, hey, nothing outside the lines. Outside the lines. What am I talking about? What lines? Lines on the football field, right? Nothing outside the lines while I'm playing. Nothing while you're playing. The fans might be cheering, the fans might be booing, whatever. Nothing outside the lines. It doesn't matter what they're doing, it matters what we're doing. That's our focus. That kind of makes sense? Third step. Well, actually, let me tell you one more story. Nick Saban, have you heard that name? Who is he? Alabama coach. Pretty darn good coach, right? One of 2 coaches in the history of big-time football that's won 2 national championships for 2 different college football teams. Who's the other guy? I said it in chalk. He's the one that came up with our 1, 2, 3, 4I, 4, 5. Bear Bryant, right? He's the only 2 guys. Anyway, he's a pretty good coach. If you ever watch their highlight film, he's on the sideline saying all the time, hey, here's what he says. He says, stay on the picture. Don't worry about what they're doing. Stay on the picture. Stay with what you want. Don't worry about what they are doing. Don't worry about what went wrong. Don't worry about what you don't want. Focus on what you want. Does that make sense? Will some teams make a play on us occasionally? Think a touchdown might be scored against us this year? Don't focus on that. Focus on what we want. Stay with the picture. Nick Saban gives footballs with the number 68 branded on it because he tells the same story that I told. 68. And he gets 100 footballs with 68 branded on it from the Army Jaeger story. And he gives them to his players and he says, who would you give this football to? Players stand up and said, I give it to my mom. She supported me through all this. I'd give it to my grandpa because he did this. I give it to my son so he can see how hard I can work. Kind of cool. Focus. So, choose your fuel. Second, use your fuel to help you focus. Third step is that focus turns into confidence. Use your focus to gain confidence. I'll tell you one more story here. I think I'm running out of time. I am. One more story. You guys ever heard of the American Cup sailboat racing? You ever seen those big monster sailboats? And those guys, I don't know what they're doing, but they're winding their hands like this all the time. You ever seen that? They're tightening up some cord or something, I don't know, and they're doing this really fast. This Australian team was always last place. They always were last place. Always. Till one year they hired a guy, and every time that they went out on their boat, he was on the microphone. They were listening in their ear headphones, and he was on the microphone telling them about winning. Telling them about how to win. Talking to them all the time. And by the time they got to the American Cup, they had heard how to win and talked about how to win 5,000 times. That year they took first place. The United States had won for 20 years in a row. All of a sudden Australia comes out and wins first place. And the news, they go, who the heck are these guys? They interview the captain. They said, what? How did you suddenly win? He goes, we won 5,000 times. We just had to go out and do it one more time. We've been focusing on winning. We've been hearing the same words that we're going to do it. We're going to do it. All we had to do was go out one time and take it. He said, what's the big deal? Captain of this ship, the first place in this American Cup. What's the big deal? We did it. You think focusing helps you gain some confidence? Absolutely. You can make something happen.